Aloha, aloha, and welcome to Eyes on Our Streams. This is a presentation on this Sunday afternoon by Sierra Club Maui Group, and I'm the chair of Sierra Club Maui Group. My name is Lucy Andine. I probably know some of you out there, but if I haven't met you, thank you so much for tuning in, and mahalo to everyone for their patience with the changes we've had to go through for this event because everything's changed since we started planning it a month and a half ago. But we wish we're easier to meet in person right now. But being that it is, we're very grateful that we have this digital option, and we want to make this an opportunity for all of us to be together as a digital family, even though we're at our own places and not in one place. So first of all, I'd like to give a big mahalo to our presenters who are coming out to share the mana'o about this very important topic of how we keep our eyes on our streams, how we actually learn about what's going on the streams that are the lifeblood of our own communities. Our first presenter will be Tara Apo Priest. She's the alakai for the stream monitoring effort for Sierra Club, and she's just put a lot of work into helping coordinate this event. So big mahalo to Tara. Dr. Andrea Kealoha is the director of the UH Maui College Water Quality Lab, and she'll be giving us all the exciting information about this amazing community resource that we have right here in Maui and how it fits into citizen stream monitoring efforts. And then we have Sam Aruk. Sam is the CEO of Natural Resources Data Solutions, which is a lot to say, but wow, can he take data and make it fun? So we're going to learn how citizens take the data that they get and put it into a form where it can be shared and used and be made effective. I'd also like to thank Marty Townsend, our director of Sierra Club Hawaii, who's manning the Facebook page. So please post your questions and comments in the comment section, and Marty will make sure they get circulated around. Also, a lot of kokua to Hi'ile Casco. Hi'ile was our summer intern on this project. She started back in July. Seems so long ago. It's only a month and a half ago, but she put a tremendous amount of work into reaching out and interviewing folks in the communities who live along streams and had stories to share, and really getting this whole ball of wax rolling along. So mahalo Hi'ile, and good luck on this year in law school. We know you're going to be a great lawyer. We wouldn't have this broadcast today if it wasn't for Rob Weltman. He's our Sierra Club volunteer tech support extraordinaire, always behind the scenes, always pushing those little buttons, making sure we can all be seen and heard. So mahalo, Rob, for stepping up for what we hope will be another great event. And then there's Adrian Raff Corwin, who's our acting Sierra Club Hawaii Communications Director. Adrian jumped right on to switch our PR around. Tanya Deason, who's our office manager extraordinaire at the Sierra Club, who kept mailing and remailing everybody. And Audrey Roca Reed at the Maui Heritage Hall in Paia, who was very understanding of all of our changes and plans. And last but not least, one of our community members out in Hoelo, where we have our 12 Forgotten Streams, Lori Grace, who's owns a farm out in Hoelo and is supporting this program to help purchase the equipment that we need to actually give citizens the tools to go out and get information about their streams. So mahalo to all of these above, and all of you out there who have just shared your ideas over the last few weeks. People stop me in the street, people email me, people text me. So we know that you're all interested in seeing how we can be better voices for our stream. So our goal here today is just to share some useful stuff with you on how the citizen-based stream monitoring works. We'll talk a little bit about the tools we use and stuff. Tara has that all covered. And then we're going to talk about what's happened so far and the next steps, like when the actual trainings are going to be offered, that kind of thing. And then most importantly, we need to figure out the best way to gather all of your ideas and knowledge, because you guys who live near streams really have the best ideas about, where we should be looking to monitor certain conditions, and Tara go into some of those conditions that we're looking to monitor. But you're really the expert. So we need some great way to sort of have a coming together of information. And so based on all the comments we get from this event, we're going to try to put that together. But we're really being guided by you. And so you're important, and you're the voice of our streams and our communities. So a few housekeeping things. We very much welcome questions for the panelists. And so just simply type them into the comments section there on Facebook where you're watching, and they will be forwarded. We're on Zoom so that we can all just like talk to each other and exchange things and stuff. And so they'll be forwarded to me, and I will pass them on to the different panelists. We do have one panelist, Dr. Kealoha, who needs to leave the Zoom early. So we will take the questions for her right after her presentation. So if you have some good questions for her, if you could get those into us after she finishes her presentation or during her presentation, because we want to honor her time constraints. And then for those who want to help us monitor, we have a Google form link that's on your Facebook feed. And whenever I mention it, I think it'll be reposted. Marty Townsend is handling the Facebook part of things. So we'll make it easy. Now, the Zoom link is just so that we make sure we have everybody that really wants to know and be kept in the loop about the monitoring. Obviously, some of you folks who are watching probably already signed up for this. We had a little community event about a month ago, and some people signed up there. Don't think that we're space potatoes and lost your name. It's just that we want to have everything in one place. So if you will bear with us and just fill out those little forms again, we'd really appreciate it. And if you're a non-tech person like me, like Google what, then our phone numbers, Tara and I will have our phone numbers and our emails posted in the Facebook chat, and you can text or call or email us, and we'll make sure that you get on the list. So we really appreciate your support. There's a couple of links that are going to be posted to helpful documents. One is the county's water use and development plan, and the other is a link to the county's Ag and Public Trust Council Committee, which is discussing that plan. We're also, I think, going to try to post a link to the gigantic EIS that just came out about 30-year leases for East Maui streams. We haven't done that yet, but we'll address that towards the end of this event. So once again, we're really happy that you've joined us. We appreciate your support of Sierra Club and other great organizations doing good work in our community. It's easy to donate to us at our Sierra Club Maui website. There's a little button you can click, and there's more instructions on, if you have special things you want. And before we start this presentation, I think it's important to remember that that old Hawaiian saying, "Ola ikawai," water is life, or as one kupuna said at a hearing, how can these folks think they own the water? Does Akua send us a bill when it rains? Well, obviously not. So water is a very important physical and spiritual resource that we all need to share. So the more we know about these amazing streams that flow through our communities, the better we can work out how that happens. So mahalo and enjoy our presentation. I'm going to start off by introducing Tara. Tara Apo Priest, our first presenter. And Tara, would you share a little bit about your background before you start your slides?
Yes, aloha everyone. And thank you, Lucienne, for that introduction and for facilitating this meeting for us. And thank you everyone for being here today. So my name is Tara Poe. I'm a student, a sustainable science management student at the UH Maui College here. And I had the really great privilege and opportunity of working with the Water Quality Lab and some of the folks out in Wailua Nui last fall, and they were kind of starting to collect these water quality data measurements. And so I was able to help them get that started and train them on using equipment. And so I'm here to help this project get started and help get you folks out and monitoring your streams and learn how to use the equipment and just start to move things forward. So I'm very excited to be here, and I can't wait to meet you all in person. So thank you.
Great. I'm going to give a little background on how we got here. I have a couple of slides to show, and then we get into the nitty gritty with Tara's slides. So let's see, I'm going to try sharing my screen here. Share screen. All right. Hopefully my screen is sharing. Feedback from anyone on Facebook. Is this coming through? All right, I will assume it is. I can see it.
You can see it here on our end from the Zoom.
Okay, it says you are screen sharing, so that's very good. Well, first of all, here's a beautiful stream, and this is what it's all about. Why is it important that citizens really get this information about their streams in their communities? Well, there's a lot of context here. I mean, if you go back over 100 years, our streams first got diverted, and this was all done very legally. The Hawaii Kingdom and then the territory and then the state all had agreements with Alexander and Baldwin's partnerships, which had different names during the times, various names, but allowing the East Maui waters to be transported for the plantation's use. And that was the basis of our sugar economy. But over the last first 100 years of those diversions, it was the Hoelo area streams that were the first to be diverted. The first ditch went to Kailua stream and Naili Haele stream. And so these streams have been diverted the longest, and they have the most ditch systems. They kept building different ditch systems higher and higher up to get, flows at different elevations. So after 20 years of litigation by Hawaiian and environmental groups, which covered 25 streams, but not most of the streams in Hoelo, 10 streams were completely restored in East Maui, which is great news. And 3 of those 10 streams were in Hoelo, but the other 12 streams in Hoelo were forgotten, which is one of the reasons we're here. So fast forward to the next 50 years, in 1978, 100 years after the first ditch to East Maui was built, we had a constitutional convention, and out of that came a water code and a water commission to kind of act as the konahiki, or the guardian over our waters. And the water code says that the state is the trustee or the guardian, and that it has the responsibility to make decisions. But its information that the state has is often very limited or very out of date. And so currently all of East Maui, there's 4 lease areas that cover 30,000 acres that start in Honopo and go all the way out to Nahiku. And there are 1-year permits to divert water from 30 of the streams in this lease area. 10 of the streams are restored, so they're not allowed to be diverted, but there's about, 35 streams that are allowed to be diverted. So things changed in 2016. For years and years, sugar was king, and then it kind of gradually wound down. In 2016, the last sugar plantation on Maui, HC&S, owned by Alexander and Baldwin, closed. But at the end of 2016, as the sugar was closing, A&B announced plans to go for the 30-year lease option for East Maui streams. Now they just have these yearly 1 year at a time leases right now. They haven't had long-term leases for quite many years. They expired. And the Water Commission had to make some decisions about restoring stream flows before any long-term leases could be considered. So the question here is, what happens next? In 2018, 30,000 acres of A and B land were sold to Mahi Pono. And it was estimated that they'd need about 100 million gallons a day of water, most of it coming from East Maui. Some would come from wells and some would come from Nabaiha, but most would come from East Maui. And then the Water Commission decision on the 25 streams that were petitioned back, 20 years ago came, and they said, okay, we'll restore 10 streams, we'll set some flow standards for another 12 streams. But these 12 Huelo streams just never got considered. But people depend on these streams. Some of you folks live on these streams: Hanavana stream, Waipio stream, Ho'olava stream, Kailua stream. And their story needs to be told. So we have so little data right now on water quality or quantity or native stream flora and fauna. So it's really an opportunity for the community to become the experts. And, even though we've gotten some good things that have happened, there have been some broken promises, and we need accountability and community engagement to make sure that we really get what is being promised. So full restoration was promised, but it's not really being delivered on all the streams because there's impediments to stream flows. There's big old dams and things still there with just little notches in them. They're not enough to really allow the full stream to flow under low conditions. And then it's hard for the fish sometimes. There's just not much in the way of habitat for them because they're blocked by diversions as well. And then some streams just have dry sections because the diversions, divert and then dump out again. So legal actions have been taken over the last couple of years. There were 30 years of legal action by Native Hawaiian groups, resulted in a great victory of restoring flow in streams, that people thought they'd never live to see. But Sierra Club's legal team, Sierra Club was a witness in these 30 years, but we were not a plaintiff. And so, the groups that fought these are resting from their labors, and Sierra Club has moved in because there's more to do. And we have members who are affected and have been affected all along. And we have supporters who are affected. So our legal team is trying to hold the state accountable. And to do that, we really need the best science and traditional knowledge, to be blended together. So 2 actions got taken, one in 2019. We asked the land board to just get the information before giving even these 1-year permits. But instead, they just issued the permits and said, no, we don't need this information. So Sierra Club took legal action. The judge ruled that, well, they did the best they could. So that hasn't had a final decision and order issued. So there could be no appeal or reconsideration until that happens. So that's kind of on hold. But in 2020, Sierra Club went to the land board again, and they're the ones that give these leases because they have to say over state lands, and the leases are on state lands. And the Sierra Club asked the land board to hold a contested case hearing on these permits. In other words, they said, land board, there's more to this story. We don't want 3 minutes to tell all the things we know about these streams. We'd like a whole chance to be a party and explain the information that we have. And the land board said, no, we don't need that. We're representing the public here. You don't have any extra story to tell, because that's what a contested case lets you do. It lets you tell your side of the story. So the Sierra Club appealed this decision to the environmental court, and just last few weeks, we got great news. The environmental court judge said, yeah, of course Sierra Club should have a contested case. It's in the Constitution that, a party that qualifies should, and they certainly do have a lot of information. So the permits that had been granted last year were invalidated, and a contested case is ordered to be held. And but the ruling was not unfair. The judge said, look, Maui County, Mahi Pono, you shouldn't go without water. Let's just decide how much water you actually need. And then the permit will be for that, not for this 45 million gallons a day you were saying that you should take each year. It's like, you don't use it. Why should your permit be for that? So this was a very historic decision because it really supports the idea that there is more to the story to tell. And some other things have happened over the years. Some stream life studies have begun on some of the Huelo streams. In other words, the squeaky wheel is getting a little bit of grease. The land board is now requiring better reports that actually show how much water EMI and Mahipono divert and how much actually gets used for each agricultural field. We never had this information before we started, pounding the pavement at the land board. And A&B has removed a lot of trash from the streams, because this is one of the things we said, how can you trash our state lands and not clean it up? And of course, we are increasing the pressure for the state to get more information and data. But our eyes on the stream kind of plays right into it. So what can we discover about our forgotten streams? And how can we be guided by traditional Hawaiian knowledge as we look for all the things there are to know? So this is something we really appreciate, those of you whose families are kama'aina to these areas, giving us your mana'o on what we should be looking for and the important things. We might miss things, having lived here 10, 15, 20 years, we might not know about things that are almost forgotten. And then we have ideas from communities, and we definitely want to, put those into the mix, because communities know how their streams kind of operate in the seasons and things. And we need to figure out how to use technology to get the information we need from our streams. And we need to figure out how to share our decisions, our knowledge with the people who are making decisions, so they're not operating in a moku, as well as with our fellow citizens. So these 30-year leases from Maui are on the horizon, but we really need the rest of the story before that happens. So without further ado, Tara, can you let us know how this Eyes on the Stream monitoring program is going to work?
Yes, so thank you so much, Lucienne, for all of that wonderful, well, not some wonderful, but the background and the context that this project has been born of. So let me share my screen. Okay. All right, can we see? Yes, good. So this project is really an opportunity for you folks, the community members, to make your voices heard and to help get the information that we need to inform good stream management practices. And so we know that many of these streams have been neglected for so long, and we don't have a lot of data on them. And so this is our time to take matters into our own hands and try to help these streams get the attention that they deserve. So we have several main project objectives. One is to develop a water quality and a stream health database that we can continue to grow and build over time. So we really want to know what is going on with our streams and how upstream activities are impacting stream health. And so we hope that this database will begin to help paint a picture for us of what is going on. And so this project will include data collection. We want to measure these scientific variables that can tell us about our water quality and our stream health. And it also includes community knowledge. So you folks live next to these streams. What have your experiences been? And what have you seen change over time? What are you seeing today? So this kind of observational information, I think, is also really important to paint that full picture for us. And along with that, as Lucienne was saying, we also need to make sure we're looking to traditional knowledge to guide us. Native Hawaiians were natural resource experts, and so it'd be really foolish to overlook this knowledge base. And so much of that came from really knowing their aina and being very aware and observant and connected. And so we want to make sure we're drawing from this well of wisdom and that we're remaining culturally sensitive and approach things, this project, in the right way. And so ultimately, the more we know about our streams, the better we're going to be able to take care of them. And That's really the goal here, to be able to take care of this precious resource. And we know that many of our streams are not currently being cared for, and that this isn't okay for the people who rely on these streams for farming, subsistence, for clean water, and for all of the native species that can't thrive or even exist if there's no stream connectivity. So we want to be able to help tell that story with the information and this data that we collect. Of course, we want corporations to be held accountable for their upstream activities and their impacts to stream health and to the people that live along these streams. We hope that this data and information will we can make available to help guide decision makers. And it's also saying, hey, look, if these community members are out here doing this on their own, then there's really no excuse for not having that information that we need to make these decisions about effective resource management. And then the other big objective here is to strengthen community relationships with nearby streams. You know, we are all stewards of this land, and it's our privilege and our kuleana to care for these resources that give life to us. And so we hope this program will support you in strengthening that kind of reciprocal relationship with the Aina that you're on. And ultimately, this is what we would hope for all of Maui and Hawaii, as communities who know their land and care for their land. So with that in mind, our phase one, we've been able to purchase some water quality equipment, which is really exciting. And thank you to Lori Grace from Puelo for making it possible for us to go out and start collecting some of this data. So we will start out small and manageable with 2 streams, Hanehoi and Ho'olava. And these streams we selected based on accessibility, which obviously is going to be very important if we're trying to do regular stream monitoring, and also community members already in place, ready to go out and start collecting data. And so we would like to take consistent measurements twice a month, and we'll be able to measure temperature, conductivity, salinity, pH, dissolved oxygen, and turbidity. And these are just really some core water quality measurements that will help to start paint the picture for us and tell us about our stream health. And I know temperature, for example, is really important, not only for everything that's living in the stream, but also for farming. Like kalo, for example, you can't grow kalo if the water is too warm, or if that cold water is not getting down to the lo'i. So really important. And or dissolved oxygen, which is necessary for all stream life. So while we may have good high levels of dissolved oxygen in our healthy flowing streams, that might not be the case for areas of intermittent stream flow or stagnant water. We really just don't know. But we do know that without this oxygen, it can't support stream life. So we will also, so we're hoping to have our first training day with the water quality equipment in late September. So if you're one of the people that are going to start with these streams, then I'll be reaching out this week and we can set that up. And then we'll also want to go out and choose the sites that we're going to collect this data from, because I know Lucienne has a few ideas, but you're really the experts of your streams. And so it's going to be a collaborative process of going out and trying to find the best areas to go take measurements from. So we'll learn together. And so this is our equipment. So the YSI Pro Quattro multi-parameter meter is in the upper left, and you can see me using it in the bottom left corner. So really easy. The nice thing about this equipment is it's very user friendly, and it does all the work for you. And you obtain readings fairly quickly. So that's the YSSI multi-parameter meter, the turbidimeter in the bottom right. And then I'm not going to speak much about this because Sam will be sharing, but for our data management needs, we'll be using Sam's INA mapping app. And another thing, that we want to make sure in our training is that we don't want to just collect data. We want to be able to collect usable data. So that'll be part of this project too, is making sure that to the best of our ability, we are collecting up to the standards that we need to for this data to be usable and potentially guide decision makers. So next phases, we are hoping that this project will grow into a robust long-term stream monitoring program. We would like to be able to measure stream flow, and obviously that would be really valuable information to have, like think about measuring above diversions and below diversions. Could really get an idea of how much water is coming through. And we have been advised by a stream hydrologist that it is, a trickier measurement to take. You have to be kind of skilled in how you're selecting your site and where you're taking your measurements. So a lot more goes into that, I guess. And it's a little bit more of an involved process, but maybe there are other ways to take these measurements too. But we'd like to do this in our next phases. And also species surveys. We all want to see our streams thriving and full of life. But we know we can't have that without stream connectivity. So I think the more we're able to connect these dots, the more powerful a story we'll have to tell. And that's really all happens with your folks' involvement. The community members are going to make this happen. And so with that, we want to hear from you. As Lucienne was saying, you know your streams. I know that you have so many ideas. What do you think we need for an effective stream monitoring program? What are your insights? What do you know? What do you think? What do you want to share? And so we really encourage and ask you to reach out, and hopefully with our collective brain power, we can cover our bases and structure a really good program that will really help us in the ways that we want. And so again, there's going to be a Facebook link posted, I think, in the chat if you want to sign up with your information to receive updates and all of that good stuff. And also feel free to email myself or Lucienne with questions, comments, anything. And we will make sure you get on that list. And mahalo to all of you for taking the time to be here and to listen to what we have to say and for being interested. I know we have received so much interest already, and so that's so exciting. And yes, we'll really be looking for ways to incorporate all of your already apparent interest. And also mahalo to everyone who helped put this event together. I know it was really last minute and we had to make all of these changes. So thank you everyone for helping with that. The Sierra Club, Marty, Lucienne for putting this together, Rob for helping us set this online event up, and to all of our presenters for being here, and to Lori Grace for helping us get this project started. And also to Hi'ilei, as Lucienne mentioned, for really planning and organizing this whole project and getting it to where it is now. We're ready to go out and start collecting some data. So mahalo.
Mahalo, Tara. And really easy to understand and hopefully exciting for folks. So if you do have questions about what you just heard from Tara, if you can type them up into the Facebook comment section, and we'll answer those at the end after we've heard from Andrea. And also, if you want to sign up to be part of the Stream Monitor training, there is that Google document. If you just have questions of us, you can contact us, but we'd like the Google document to be those who we keep in in touch on the training possibilities, because that's a pretty specific commitment of time and so forth. So without further ado, our next presenter has all of the latest and greatest about our terrific water lab at Maui, Dr. Andrea Kealoha, and a local girl who has really filled an important notch. I know you're really interested in marine biology and related subjects, but water quality was something that we were sending off island before we had this lab. So if you could let us know a little bit about your background and anything else you want us to know, Andrea, and then share your slides. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, so my name is Andrea Kealoha. I'm from Paia, actually, and I graduated from Kekekalike, and I've got a bachelor's at Manoa in global environmental science, and really like to do research, so continued on to do my master's in marine science at HPU, and then I finished a PhD in oceanography at Texas A&M several years ago, and just really wanted to come back to Maui and kind of apply all of the things that I had learned to our ocean resources here. And so I was just really fortunate to come in at a really good time when the college was looking for someone to build this water quality lab. And so I've been at the college for maybe 2 years, a little over 2 years now. And so I'm going to be talking about our water quality lab and just some of the different projects that we have going on. I know you guys are talking a lot about stream water. So I'm an oceanographer. So I'm going to be talking about water quality as it relates to coral reefs and oceanography. I specialize in climate change stressors to coral reefs, but I think that, the water quality I'll be talking about also relates to stream stuff, and there's just this big connection between the land and our ocean. So should I share my screen? Can I share my screen?
Please do. Just you have permission to share your screen, I believe.
Okay.
Push share screen, and then when you see the thing, the prompt, click the slides.
Okay. So let's see here. And you can see that okay?
Yep, good.
All right. Okay. So yeah, I'll be talking about how our lab is building capacity for water quality research and monitoring on Maui. So water is one of our most important resources, if not our most important resource. It supported a long history of agriculture on Maui, both commercial and private farming. Our oceans house an extensive amount of coral reefs that draw tourists from around the world and help to support our local economy. And then from a cultural perspective, water is really important and historically has kind of helped to shape land divisions and also social divisions. But our water resources are fragile and they're limited. And so it's really challenging to manage these resources in response to the stressors that come with a growing population and climate change and increased human pressures. Maui's coastal waters continuously fail to meet the water quality standards set by the EPA, particularly for turbidity and nutrients. Our marine ecosystems are subject to local stressors like nutrient pollution and overfishing, but also global stressors like ocean warming and ocean acidification. And then our island is isolated and we have limited resources. And so all of the people that want to, it's really challenging to monitor water quality, and all of the people that want to monitor water quality have to send their samples off island, until we built the water quality lab at UHMC. So we started building the lab a couple of years ago, and really now we're starting to become fully functioning. It just takes a long time to learn instrumentation and learn all of these different types of analyses that we need to do. We have three main goals: providing educational opportunities for our students related to marine science and water quality and resource management, making water quality monitoring more accessible to our community, and then conducting research that supports healthy coastal and coral reef ecosystems. For education, we have a couple of different grants. So we have these two USDA grants, Kawaiʻola and Maukota Makai. And through these grants, we offer high school summer bridge programs for students. We have, for our college students, water quality courses and internship programs. And Tara was an intern through our Maukota Makai program, and it's just really great to see her stepping up and taking a leadership role, and hopefully applying some of the things that she learned through her internship. So these types of internships are really beneficial for our students in getting them out to the community and introducing them to people that can help them to shape their careers. We have a water quality class, 2 water quality courses coming up to this fall. It's a 2-semester consecutive course. So the first course in the fall is field methods, developing a sampling plan, going out into the field, collecting the data, learning how to run the data in the lab. And then the second semester is a research communication, where you learn to interpret that data, present the data to the public, both through oral communication and also written communication. And then we also have water quality courses for the community. And then this other grant, Building Environmental Resiliency Leaders, is a NOAA grant offered through the Environmental Literacy Program. And we've developed curriculum for high school students around building environmental resilience, community resilience to climate change hazards. So we're offering that curriculum in high schools. It's being implemented into various classrooms. We aim to build environmental literacy through citizen science. So one of our projects, which I'll be talking about in a bit, the fieldwork component is really driven by citizen scientists. They're making the measurements and collecting the samples. So that's been a really great way to build community resilience and sustainability, and then give us an opportunity to interact with our community. And then we're increasing capacity for water quality monitoring. So for example, the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, will require farms to start monitoring their water quality, and some already are for E. coli. And so before our lab was built, the growers had to collect their samples, then they have to be stored on ice, shipped to Oahu, analyzed within 6 hours. And so all of this takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, and a lot of money. And so now they're just bringing their samples right down to us at the college. So it just makes everything a lot easier for them. We have NEPDIS permit holders, so National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit holders that have to monitor their discharge. So again, they used to have to send their samples to Oahu, and now the samples can come to us. And then we're conducting research that supports healthy coastal ecosystems. So this is just a couple of the research projects that we're working on. We have an island-wide coastal water quality assessment, and that's funded by the USDA. So I'll talk about this one, and then this other one, reduced eutrophication and acidification in West Maui, which probably a lot of you are familiar with, the Kahekili project. And then we have this other project invasive alga in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. I'm not going to talk about that, but it was actually on the front page of the Maui News yesterday. So if you were interested in learning more about that project, you could read about it in the Maui News. I think it might be in Maui now too. Okay, so this first one is an island-wide coastal water quality assessment. And the main goal of this project is to establish current baseline coastal water quality trends around Maui. So we're doing a spatial assessment. So you can see all of these green dots are locations where we're collecting water samples. And they're transects, right? So they start as close to shore as possible and then move offshore. So looking at what is the water quality on each side of the island, and can we connect trends in water quality to land activities? You'll see that there's a big gap here in the south and the east side of the island, and that's just because it's harder to get there. So this side of the island will continue to be one of the gaps in our knowledge of water quality. We're doing a temporal assessment, so looking at seasonal variability, summer versus winter. And then we also got funding to do sampling in July of 2020 during the visitor quarantine. So trying to understand how reduced population affects water quality. And so the parameters that we're measuring are nutrients, temperature and salinity, turbidity, pH, and oxygen. And so for those that are not familiar with the water quality parameters and why we measure them and what they mean, nutrients, particularly mostly nitrate and phosphate is what we measure, and also silicate and ammonia. Nutrients is an indicator of photosynthesis, which is really important for algae growth and for coral growth. But it's also an indicator of land-based sources of pollution like fertilizers and sewage. Temperature and salinity determine what types of organisms can live within the environment. But temperature is an important monitoring parameter for climate change, ocean warming. And salinity is an indicator of freshwater sources to the environment. Turbidity is a measure of clarity. So if the water is really dirty, that's going to block photosynthesis and it's going to hinder coral reef growth. If you have sedimentation, that's going to cause a lot of cloudiness, and then that sedimentation can also, or that sediment can smother the corals. pH and oxygen are indicators of metabolic activity, so photosynthesis, respiration, calcification of coral reefs, but they're also monitoring parameters for climate change, so ocean acidification and hypoxia or deoxygenation. So we measure all of these together, and together the data can tell us a lot about the water quality in a particular space and over time. This is just some preliminary data, so you could see an example of how we use our nutrient data. So this is showing nitrate concentrations. Nitrate's an indicator of land-based sources of pollution. And the little dots are the locations of the sampling sites. So light means low nitrate concentrations and dark means higher nitrate concentrations. And you can see that the whole west and down into the south side of the island has lower nitrate concentrations and lower nutrient concentrations, whereas the North Shore has higher nitrate concentrations. So, there's a lot of freshwater and groundwater associated with the North Shore. Maliko has Maliko Stream. There's some groundwater inputs at Paia Bay, and then at Kanaha, as well as an injection well. So if we were to pair this with silicate, which is another nutrient that's an indicator of freshwater, we would see higher silicate concentrations here. And then the second project investigates the impact of nutrient pollution and acidification in West Maui at Kahikili. So Kahekili is located on the upper west side of Maui by Ka'anapali. The Lahaina Wastewater Reclamation Facility receives wastewater for the Lahaina and Kaanapali area, and then treats that water and injects it into injection wells where it mixes with the groundwater and then flows out down to the coast and comes out at the along the coastline through seeps at Kahekili. The submarine groundwater discharge, or SGD, is high in nutrient concentrations. It's high in organic pollutants, and it's also acidified. And so if you were to snorkel in the area, you would see that the corals located further away from the seeps are healthier and visually happier looking. And then as you move progressively towards the seeps, the ecosystem shifts to one that's more dominated by algae. And this is some pictures that were taken during one of our sampling events. So this is increasing distance from the seep site. This is the seep site, and then a little bit further away, and then the furthest site. So visually, you can see how the SGD shapes the benthic composition at these sites. So at the seep site, high algae cover, no corals. A little bit further away, you start to see some corals popping up, but still very high algae cover. And then at S4, our site furthest away, we have much higher coral cover and lower algae cover. On March 26, Governor Ike implemented the 2-week visitor quarantine, which dropped visitor arrivals to Hawaii by almost 98%. And as a result, the Lahaina Wastewater Reclamation Facility was receiving 40% less wastewater and injecting 60% less treated wastewater. And so there were these anecdotal reports of cleaner water. And so the question that we're trying to answer is, how does improved water quality impact reef health? And it's kind of a really cool project because we never get to take out the stressors in the environment. We only are putting more in. So it's kind of like a reversed experiment and a really, really critical study to be doing. So right now, well, pre-COVID, the SGD had high nutrient concentrations and it was acidified. And so this causes phase shifts in the ecosystem from coral-dominated reefs to algal-dominated reefs. But during the COVID-related population decline, we're seeing less treated water being injected. And so that leads to lower nutrient concentrations and reduced acidification. So we're wondering, will we see these will we see shifts back to coral-dominated reefs in the area? And we're using water chemistry to measure this. Specifically, we look at coral reef metabolism. So we're measuring how much the reef is growing and photosynthesizing. And that's all I have. So thank you. And I guess we're taking questions at the end.
No, we're going to take questions right now for your
okay.
presentation because we know you may not be able to stay to the end.
Okay.
It's okay with you. Is
Yeah.
that okay? All right. Would you stop sharing your screen then? And then our faces will appear. There we go. Here we are. Well, that was an inspiring presentation. I mean, I knew a little bit about what was going on, but I think
Thank you.
you know, you guys are setting forth to try to give us the answers we need to make some good decisions there. You know, Sierra Club's a party for that waste treatment suit, and we've only been at it 12 years. But the data really helps. It's a great illustration of why we're here today, because data really helps. You know, it helps us make better decisions. So we have a ton of questions for you. We have all kinds of people interested in you know about. Our first question comes from some folks who live over on Ho'olava Stream, which Twin Falls is on Ho'olava Stream. Very, very popular area with tourists. Everybody, you know, hundreds of cars stop there every day. They're wondering they, you know, live downstream and they drink the water from from the stream, hopefully when it runs. Is there any way of testing for chemicals like from sunscreen and bug spray and stuff like that? Do you know of any tests that are developed? We know that the coral reefs are affected by the sunscreen chemicals, but is there a way of testing for them? And could citizens, you know, try to test their water and find out what's going on, what impacts it might have on the stream life downstream from them, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I don't really know a whole lot about those types of pollutants. We do have so for like the sunscreen stuff, those are what we call like the organic pollutants. So we're doing a study like that at Kahikili, and I have a collaborator at Texas A&M who leads that part of the project. And she does all of the analyses for us. So our lab doesn't do those types of analyses. I think you would have to send the samples off island. But I don't even know, I'm not even aware of any studies that have looked at the effects of those types of organic pollutants in streams. I mean, I think even the sunscreen issue on coral reef health is fairly new, you know, so that's my guess is that there hasn't been done a lot of work done there.
So
But
that might go on our question list of how we can find a way of getting, you know, a grad student or someone interested
yeah,
in doing a little study, because we have good access to the streams. People live along the streams and they can give access to have
yeah, I
regular.
think that would be a really interesting study, finding like somebody with an organic pollutant lab and then getting one of their graduate students to do like an island-wide study or a statewide study on that would be really cool.
Yeah. So I have another one that's kind of about, I noticed that your hot spots for water quality testing for the ocean ended in Maliko, but
Mhm.
what, how could there be a study along the Haiku coast, which we have good access to? It's easy to get down there to a lot of places like, you know, Kuiaha Bay and, you know,
Yeah,
places. And because you know, the whole area upslope is unsewered and no one knows what's happening with the water that, you know, the groundwater that goes downslope into the ocean. So is that something that could be a like a student intern project or anything like that?
yeah, I know, like, so the reason that we don't go out there is because everything that we do is by boat, and then just to get launched from, you know, Kaului Harbor and then get out to Maliko takes so long, and then you have to find this perfect day. So we just kind of, for because of access issues with the boat, we don't go all the way around. But
Mm.
um, if there is somebody that could take, I think we do summer, winter, and then we're doing it again this summer. So that will be kind of the end. But I think, like, as you can see from that map, that like we, I don't know anything about the water quality on that side, and I don't know anybody else that's monitoring the water quality on that side. I mean, I know Surfrider Foundation does some stuff in Maliko, and you know, Huioka Viola does a lot of stuff in the west and the south side of the island. But I think it would be a really cool project to do some kind of nearshore sampling along that coastline, and then you know, doing it over some period of time as well, monthly even would be helpful.
So that brings us, we had another comment from
I have
Nick.
internships opportunities for stuff like that, if anybody's interested.
So in other words, you have interns who might be looking for projects?
Yeah, well, we just have to find an intern. I have internship, uh, like we have stipends and stuff for students to do internships and projects like that. So we pair the interns. Well, the interns usually kind of work through my lab, but are paired with some group like the Sierra Club to do a project like that. So we would kind of co-mentor the student, and then they have funding and stuff like that. So yeah, if somebody's interested in doing something like that, send them my way.
Oh, that sounds like a very nice kind of compact project. On that same sort of theme, Megan Loomis Powers, who lives in East Maui, mentioned that she's going to be swimming around the island over the next couple of years. And if it would be helpful to get into these wild shoreline areas, just to get, some data sets, she'd be happy to try to coordinate. Now, she's already graduated from college. She's a grandmother, not a student age, but she's a good swimmer. So,
Yeah.
yeah, is that the kind of thing where could people in touch with you and you could figure out if there's any way that what they're doing and what you're doing could work out?
I mean, I'm always open to like discussing those types of opportunities. I think a couple of people have actually talked to me about like the swimming thing, and somebody else came to me because they were doing like a surf around the island. It's challenging because, I mean, it's definitely doable, but it just takes a lot more coordination. So I kind of need, it's nice to have someone dedicated, like a student, to that project to take on the data and to kind of coordinate the effort and stuff like that. There's some like preservation of the samples and stuff that needs to take place. Like it needs to be on ice. So you just need to think about like if you're swimming for 3 hours, how, are you gonna have a backpack and can you put it on ice, and just like all of those different little things. So it's definitely doable. It just takes something thinking through.
Here, we have another one from our viewing audience. Deborah Dove asks, what about pesticides in water, in the ocean water or in fresh water? Are they being measured at all?
I'm sure, but I'm not sure who's monitoring or who's responsible for doing the pesticides. Our lab, we focus mostly on nutrients in the ocean. So yeah, we don't have a machine for pesticides.
So those are something that would need to be sent off island once again.
Yeah, definitely.
Here for that. And then another question too, is there a map that shows where all the injection wells and wastewater type of things are being discharged for the whole island?
I wonder if, I'm sure like this county or the state has something.
I think the Department of Health does.
I've found, like I've researched articles that show like the different locations of where the injection wells are. So that's kind of the source that I've used, but I'm sure the county has something. I just don't really know. Where I know that there's one at Kanaha, there's the Cove, right? And then there's Kaikili, but I don't know where the other ones are, or if there are any others.
County injection wells, they're private injection wells too. There's a number of wells. Yeah, the State Department of Health does have a master list. I'm not sure if it's online anymore, but that would be another good little project just to kind of come up with the comparison of those, and then water quality.
Yeah.
Where you see water quality things.
I would be very interested in seeing something like that.
We have a follow-up question. Can your boat launch from Maliko itself, or does it have to launch from Kahului?
Can you launch boats from Maliko?
The boat that you guys use to go take your samples, you mentioned that you launch it from Kahului and then you go around to take the samples at Maliko. So the question was, could you?
We don't launch at Maliko. No, I don't think you can launch a boat from Maliko, can you? Or a big boat? A big boat. We have a big, no, I don't, no, we wouldn't. Yeah.
Boats. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess no, I don't think we could launch from Maliko.
All right, and we have another one that says, if as part of this program, water quality is tested at stream mouths where they meet the ocean, at some of these streams, along the East Maui coast, because some residents live right at the stream mouth, so they have really good access. They could just walk right down there. Would that be useful information for this overall water quality database that you're putting together?
So for us, the last sampling will be in September. So we're kind of wrapping up that project, but I think that in general, there are groups that actually like go out and monitor. So our lab, we we're not the ones really, like, we do have some projects to, like, some research projects that are focused on water quality, but we're not really out there month to month, monitoring water quality. There's a lot of NGOs and other groups that are dedicated to doing that work. But I think that is definitely something that's needed, and maybe somebody is starting to put together a database like that, in which those samples would be useful. Yeah.
Okay, but if people got the information, could the test results go through the lab?
Yeah, if there's funding for it.
Okay, all right. So we're learning more. And what about areas that like are impaired, like Honolulu Stream shows up as impaired, where it empties into the ocean, and the ocean in Honolulu Bay.
It shows up as impaired where?
Oh, in the state's report that it sends, the
Oh,
report that it sends in. Yeah, it's listed every year as report as impaired. I know this from our East Maui case. And I know that there's citizens that are working there to restore the lo'i and so forth. And I
yeah,
know that in water quality testing. So
yeah.
if tests there, could their samples go to the lab and we start getting some data on what's going on?
Yeah, so, like, we have the general stuff that Tara was talking about, the temperature, salinity, and those things. And then our lab does nutrients,
Mhm.
dissolved inorganic nutrients, so nitrate, phosphate, ammonia, silicate, and nitrite. So those are all indicators of different sources of pollution. And then we also do E. coli. We also do total suspended solids and biological oxygen demand. So these are all different types of water quality tests that we do at our lab.
Yeah,
Then,
I think it's the total dissolved solids that have some problems at Honolulu. I think that's the
yeah,
plan.
so we could do those tests at the lab. Yeah.
And then we have one last question here. How long does it take for corals to return? If
To
conditions,
return,
yeah, like to start growing back if conditions.
oh gosh, I mean, I think that's dependent on a lot of different things. I don't know if that would just depend on so many different factors, but I think that coral reefs, and we've seen, throughout not just like our lifetime, but throughout Earth's history, that coral reefs are incredibly resilient ecosystems, and they can come back pretty quickly if we start to remove the stressors. So yeah, I think, in the case of kahikili, for example, like if there is reduced nutrient pollution, if there is reduced acidification, we will see the impacts of that. Maybe not visually, but we can definitely measure it in the water chemistry and how that tells us about the formation of the reef itself.
Amazing. So is any testing being done at Honokohau Stream out in West Maui? Is there a project out there testing for water quality?
Not that I know of, not through our lab.
Okay. Well, wow. Thank you.
Thanks for all the questions.
It helps us, I think, see what the need is in the community. I mean, this lab is like a tremendous asset. I've taken water samples from the ocean, and we had to like rush them to an airplane to get them,
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
Honolulu.
and
Yeah.
I think from all of the questions about all of the different streams and all of the different locations, it just goes to show there's still so much we don't know, and there's still so much interest and so many gaps in our knowledge for the water quality around the island. So hopefully we can start chipping away little by little.
It sounds like we have a few student intern and graduate student projects here.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, also the water quality class that we're starting in the fall is a really good way to, through that class, students do projects and they run all of the samples through the lab, and that's fully funded by the USDA grant that I have. So there's still open spots in that class if anyone's interested. Just Tara has my email. Send them my way.
So noted. Well, that should be good for some of the folks that are interested in this, as more than a passing interest. Get that training, and who knows, it
Yeah.
might be your new career.
Yeah, we
Thank
certainly need it.
Andrea, you're definitely inspiring us, and we're going to move on to Sam, who's also got an inspirational presentation. So, Sam, could you say a few words to introduce yourself and how you got to be the data meister here, and then take us through your slides and your connections.
Sure. Can you guys hear me? See my thing?
Your thing is not on yet.
Oh.
You have to,
Yeah, so my name is Sam Aruk. I live in Haiku, and I have a company called Natural Resource Data Solutions, NRDS, sometimes affectionately known as NERDS. And so we have I'll do a little deck, and then I'll try and jump into the live demo. So yeah, can you see my screen?
not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, did you click share screen?
I did. All right, hold
Okay,
on. Oh, there we go.
try it again. Nothing's showing up yet. That's funny. It worked during our test.
Try one more time.
Well, while Sam is pulling that. Ah, there we go.
All right.
Hey, what amazing.
Okay, so yeah, so yeah, we have a place-based project management platform for agriculture and conservation. So I got my start doing research, field work. So I worked for some of the watershed partnerships, different land managers. And as I got more and more into management, we realized that it was really hard to share the success of our work and learn from our mistakes, because all of our information was kind of like either scattered all over or stuck in a file cabinet somewhere. So we started NRDS, right? So different tools, including a mobile tool to collect data in real time in the field, dashboards and analytics, so decisions can be made in real time, right? Versus weeks or months or often not at all. And the goal was essentially put something together that's easy to use, mobile, it's accurate, and really importantly, it makes information shareable, compatible between different organizations. And so, we started this about 5 years ago, and we have a bunch of different projects ranging from invasive species removal, rare species management, agroforestry projects, landscape scale restoration projects, some production ag projects ranging from small terra farmers to larger projects, some community-based management projects such as working with the Wailua Nui community, working with KUA, community organization to put together kilo observation forums for different communities, fish pond projects, and of course, this water quality project. So we can do all kinds of different things, but let me show you the stream monitoring and water quality setup that we have. So let me wait, can you see this?
Yes.
All right. So this is my actual iPad. The blue dot over here, that's me sitting at my house on Avalo. And so the way the app works is you could be in the field, you could work completely offline with no reception. And you can take a point for where you are. You can click on an existing location, and then we can collect water quality data. So we can, you can pick, okay, who's the sampler, temperature, fill out the form, take pictures. Tells you, make sure everything's required and done. Or we can do other things like stream flow monitoring, which Tara was talking about as well. So with the stream flow monitoring form, and we could build other forms as well. So we can take, time, location, measurement, GPS point. We can pick the recorders, stream type. So it's the Hawaii. Take different measurements. Above or below diversion, characterize the type of stream. What types of animals are in the stream. And then, part of the stream flow monitoring is you're taking measurements at different intervals, right? So you can take multiple measurements, and then we can take pictures. And so once you collect all this information, and then we can do other things with the map too. So it's got like full mapping. You can say track your, you can draw on the map. So I can say I wanted to measure an area, so I could walk around an area, save it, name it, get the acreage. Or if I'm mapping out the roads and my access, I can also say track my path. And so all of this it's all private. So it's all kind of owned by the users, but none of this is public information. So it's all private and secure. And then so once you collect all the information and you get back to where you have Wi-Fi, you can sync it. And the data goes into the website. So I'll show you that. And so this is the site. So we can pull together different types of dashboards. So here's some examples. This is actually Huio Kawaiola water quality data that I just pulled in so we can have something to play with. But you can build out these different dashboards, filter them by date or site or pretty much anything. We can look at comparisons of different sites for different parameters. Or look at a specific parameter at a certain site. Here's another example of a stream flow dashboard. So in addition to pulling in the data that you collect or we collect, we can also tap into different sensors. So this is grabbing information from USGS Hanavi stream gauge and rain gauge as well. I think in Huelo, is it Honopo has a stream gauge, has a USGS gauge?
Yes, we have one gauge at Honopo, and I don't know if we have a rain station. There may be one in Kailua. There used to be something up there.
Well, that's cool. People can actually put them at their houses too. And we can pull the data from that as well in different locations. So this dashboard right here, this is actually my rain gauge at my house right now. So you can see it last pulled at 4:10. And it's a beautiful day. You can see rain every day, average daily temperature. And this right here, this is a snapshot from that March 8th storm. And you can see that it rained about almost 5 inches in 1 hour in my yard. So So yeah, so we can pull all the different data sets together, and not just we can tap into the different sensors. We can pull data from people's rain gauges in their yards. They can manually enter data. We can pull data from different sites and just drag and drop it in from Excel spreadsheets as well. And we can set up different types of forms. So, take pictures over time. Here's a happy child in a dry stream bed. Yeah, and it's a pretty powerful system. And like I said, we have all different types of use cases, ranging from ag, seabird management, different types of natural resource management, to water quality. And then so it's beyond the dashboards as well. So we can set these up to make it really easy to kind of see and make a nice user-friendly application to see the data. But we also have more power behind it, where you can actually come in and manipulate the data. So as a user, you can come in here and you can make some of your own visualizations. So I can take that water quality data, and I can start to look at it, and I can say, okay, well, I want to know the average turbidity by month at Honolulu. And I want to compare that to Oahu. You get what I'm saying, right? So pretty powerful tool to take that data and put it in your hands. Yeah.
Wow. We're getting wows in our comment section.
Yeah. Yeah, anything specific you want to see or me to talk about, or can answer some questions?
Folks who are watching, if you have any specific questions on stuff you'd like to know from Sam, please type them up and they'll be forwarded. I have a couple that have come to mind, and one is when you say we. So Sierra Club has subscribed to this service, so the
Yes.
volunteers will be able to download this app. And how does it work? Do you just put it on your phone or your iPad or your computer? Do you have to have it on one device or all devices? What's the how?
That's a really good question. So if you go into the App Store, the Google or the App Store or the Play Store, and you just look up NRDS INA, you'll see the app there and you can download it. And so this is a subscription service. We need to eat. So if you're part of this project, then you can, we'll give you a login, we'll set you up, and then you can use it for the data collection. If you have other projects in mind, we're always looking for new projects and new partners. And yeah, so there's a mobile app. So the mobile app I showed on my iPhone. So you download that and then you log in, and we'll set you up the login, and then you can use it in the field, and we'll do some training. It's pretty well battle tested. We have projects like on Kauai, they take this thing into the Alakai for like a week at a time in pouring rain, collect thousands of records on seabirds, and then come back and sync the data. So it's been pretty beat up, used in some pretty remote areas. And we're always looking for feedback and ways to make it easier to use and more user-friendly, more tools, more features, constantly updating it. So there's the mobile app and then there's the website. The website is more for administrative use. So, you can look at a map and look at all your different data sets. We can even pull in things like drone imagery into here. You can manage, say, your contacts and your workers. We have projects that do, say, like production ag, as well as bring in community members, like either for community work days or at-risk youth, and they use the app to track things like demographics for their grants or track different things for their reports, basically track goals for their report. So you can do things like that as well. So, for this particular project, we can do things like looking at, frequency of when areas have been mapped and monitored and set up reminders if, an area has been missed or it's off its, schedule, and set up things like that.
Wow. So in essence, each volunteer who was collecting data would get the app, would download the app, and when they're out in the field, they can use it whether there's internet or not, and they can just by punching these little boxes, it gives you choices. And then do you have to also enter actual numbers? If, say, you have one of these meters and it has a number on it, when you get it out of the stream, say it's the temperature number, you just punch in that number on your phone in the little space provided for temperature? Is that
Yeah,
how
exactly. That's exactly how it works. So you would, yep.
And then it looked like that in order to kind of create all those neat sort of printouts of how your data kind of trends, that you just sort of choose a bunch of fields to display that you would click, like, I need to know from this month to this month, I would need to know about, this particular measurement, and I would need to know it for this area. And then you click all those, and then that just pops up. It just sorts it all, and you just look at the results. Is that what I'm seeing here on the screen?
Yeah, what we can do is so I put this together today as an example, right? So we can kind of set it up the way you want it. Different people have different levels of different needs or different levels of wanting to be able to manipulate the data. So for, if there's something you want to see every time, we can set up the dashboard and package it up, or we can train you to set up the dashboards and package it up. And then, yeah, you can just filter it. So, show me, I just want to see everything that happened, this year.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you have people who are they're not the cell phone type, but they love going and gathering information. Like I know we had an elderly gentleman who would go every morning to Wailuku River, and he would take pictures and he would put a stick in the water and he'd measure the depth and stuff. But he wrote everything down in a little notebook. Can you just that type of information and just input it into this database, and it works just as well if you don't do it like directly in the field?
Yeah, so you can import it on the app, but you can also come and import it into on the website too.
Mm-hmm.
So, here's my information. Internet's getting slow. Yeah, so here's my information. Right here's my little demo. Pictures. And I can just add a new record from the office or from your house.
Mm-hmm. So when you get home, you can go and just log into this website, and then just put whatever you want down, and it stays.
Exactly.
But is it one of those things like Google Docs where you can never find it again, or you don't know where to look for it? I'm sorry, I'm betraying my technical.
That's Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's pretty organized. Like, here's the water quality, here's the stream flow, here's some sample data, here's the pictures. So, we listen to you
And does
because
it have its own section of the website? When you log in, you don't see everybody else's data. You just go to your data, right?
so the way it'll work for this project, and we could split it into different types of teams, but you set it up as a team, and everybody in the same team can see each other's data.
Mhm.
And but you can't see anybody else's data, right? So it's like, if there's another organization or another group, you won't be able to see their data
Right,
because it's private.
right.
But built into the back end of this, we have a whole data sharing infrastructure. So if you had, like, let's say you had the East Maui group and the West Maui group, right? It's different community members. They want to kind of keep the data separate so nobody messes with anybody else's thing. But you want to pull it all together for some analytics, or for a report, or for whatever use you have. We can actually pull it together on the back end and merge it. And whether that's individual records, or that's some type of aggregate that's showing averages, right? So we have some projects that are actually co-ops that do this, where they have the individual members collecting data, and then they aggregate the aggregate data for reporting or for big picture metrics, right? So a similar use case could be something like food safety, right? For like certification, like GAP certification, right? Like everybody can do their own data collection and then pool it for an audit, something like that. So, yeah.
Well, this is really cool. I wonder, so if you're out in the field and you have this on your phone and you just want to record other stuff that maybe there isn't a field for already, is there an other button? Like, you just noticed that, for instance, how many koa trees are growing along this stream now, and you hadn't thought about that. So can you create a new category and just record in it and take GPS points and stuff?
Yeah, we can create like a little other form, that just comes up when you press the button. Or, just if it's like a catch-all, you can take a point where you are, and I can say, oh, there's a big hole, and then I can take a picture of it.
Also, I wonder, any of our listeners out there, do you have any good ideas? You don't have to think of them today, but if you do think of them, of the type of stuff that we should be gathering about the streams. Because I mean, there's the standard stuff that science always looks for: the temperature, the pH, the amount of flow, that kind of thing, and those are important. But I've heard people mention that there are specific things that they've been observing about their stream for years that may not show up on that kind of metrics chart. So if folks have ideas about the kind of stuff that would be good to know about the streams, because in the end it tells us a lot about other things, that would be terrific to have that input from community members. And of course, we'll ask while we're doing the trainings too, because like, we want to design a program for the streams that matches the streams. And one thing I can think of is trying to look at old land commission awards and connect them to different sections of the stream where we might be measuring, and see what they say about crops that were growing there. I don't know, does anyone do that on their stream measurements? Do they look at historic knowledge about any descriptions of that area of the stream?
Well, I think in terms of historical data, one of the things that's been recommended is to do measurements at areas where there's either old stream gauges that may have gotten washed out or decommissioned, especially along the ditches,
Mhm.
because then there's past data.
Mhm.
And then in terms of, splitting things up by, land commission awards or land use types, the way this system is built, it's built on top of GIS, which is geographical information systems. So we can pull in whatever types of land designations you want, Ahupua'a or Ili, whatever, and then we can actually just like even split the data up by those types of descriptions, right? So because every time you collect information, you're going to either take a point or collect information at a known point or location, and then we can split those up pretty much on the fly, right? So maybe we create a layer above and below diversions, or above and below popular areas or the road or different types of things, and then we can spatially look at differences and that kind of thing. So yeah, I
Wow.
mean, I think it's you just have
So-
to set
but
it up that way, right? And think about it
I'm
beforehand.
getting the impression that, if citizens just want to sort of specialize things, they become your friend for life, because they have to kind of probably go to you to, have you figure out where to create that little puka in the electronic universe here, where that information.
Yes and no. It is built to get stuff out too, right? So like, let's say you don't like us anymore, or the project ends, or something better comes along. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. But you can pull all that stuff out. You want to look at it a different way. You can dump all the data out into Excel, or different types of you can pull everything into Google Earth or Esri ArcGIS, which is a really popular GIS platform. You can pull all the data into Excel, so you're not really like locked in.
Mhm.
But yeah, when it comes to like a more sophisticated analysis within the system, we'll help you set that up, or at least set up the infrastructure part of it to make it work every time, right? So
Oh, great.
yeah.
Well, fascinating. So we don't have any other questions from Facebook. We have a lot of thank yous and this is awesome and so forth and so on. So thank you for inventing this system. I think it's going to make our work a lot easier, because I have so many little notebooks full of notes of things, and then I don't remember what they go to anymore, but it'd be great to have a place where things line up. Well, we've reached the end of our presentations, and do we have any additional questions or comments or ideas from our listeners out there? If so, if you could just let us know on Facebook. Tara, anything that you would like to comment on or wrap up from what's been said thus far?
No, it's been really good to see Sam's kind of demo, because I had the opportunity to work just very briefly with his app when I was working in Ke'anai, Wailuanui. But it's just really neat to see all of the things that it can do. I mean, you just like go off in your mind about all the potential ways you could visualize your data and how powerful that could be. And so I think it's just really exciting. I'm really glad that that we have him on board to help us with this project and to utilize this really cool resource. So, yeah.
Mahalo. How many users can our project have using the app? Is there like, kind of an upper limit?
Technically there's no upper limit. So yeah, I mean, let's see how many people you want to engage.
Well, I'm
Make it
sure
better.
it's smaller at first, but
Yeah.
I think people would like to expand to other areas. And, if we can give that support and collect that data too and compare it with, you know, like the Haiku area and the Hoelo area are very connected. So it'd be great if we could eventually, you know, work in the Haiku area as well, and just keep all the data together. But that would require probably more folks being involved. And then can we put other Sierra Club projects in this? Because like we do ArcSite, you know, recon and stuff. We have a whole group of folks that just, you know, go and record unrecorded archaeological sites. So could we open like a new page and still under the Sierra Club banner and have the archaeological info go there too?
Sure. Yeah, we can set something up. I think that could work pretty well.
Okay, well, very good. Well, I want to thank all of our presenters, and we said our last item on our meeting was going to be some updates on the water use and development plan, and also the this 30-year lease environmental impact statement that was actually released on the 23rd of July. So I guess I'll start with that. So why was an environmental impact statement released by A and B, and what does it mean? I didn't do slides for this because it's pretty simple to understand. About 20 years ago, community members started asking the state not to give away, quote unquote, you know, they get some money for the waters from state lands, but not to basically allow one large company to divert a lot of water. 65 billion gallons a day was where it was at back in the 90s, at a very low price, $160,000 a year, with no environmental impact statement. Because we have environmental laws that say if you're using state lands or state resources, state funding, you need to examine the environmental impacts of it. Well, this debate circled around. There was a court case back in 2005 where the judge basically said, wow, you can't give those leases until an EIS is done. And, but first, you know, the Water Commission should set some stream flow standards. Well, that took another 13 years to have the stream flow standards for some of the streams set. And so now the EIS is on the table. And the EIS, as we noted in the slideshow, it started in 2017 with a prep notice. It was a skinny little thing, and it said, here's the stuff we're going to cover in our EIS. And tons of people wrote comments. There were some public meetings. There was at least 100 at the one in Haiku. And basically, people said, well, you're not covering much in this EIS. You're not really talking about a lot of the stuff that's going to be impacted. So, you know, you really need to get the right info in there. So nothing happened for a couple of years, and then a draft EIS came out in, I guess it was 2019. And a number of people, it was a few thousand pages, it was over 2,000 pages, and a number of people did read sections or read, in some cases, the whole thing and wrote comments. They got about 400 comments. Some were just, you know, people who had concerns about 30-year leases. It's a long time. We don't know what the watershed's going to be like in 30 years. So all those comments were kind of, you know, mashed and dashed. And a final EIS came out just, like I said, the 23rd of July. This final EIS is 9,000 pages. I don't think personally I'm going to be able to read the whole thing, but a number of people have read sections. And if you're one of those people who likes to read and would like to be part of a reading group to read and analyze sections, we'd love to hear from you. But in general, a final EA just means we've done it all. We've listened to everybody. We've incorporated everybody's comments. And now we're ready for the agency to approve our environmental impact statement. And the agency is the land board, this famous land board, the BLNR. And they're only being asked to do one thing. They're being asked to determine if it's adequate under our state laws. In other words, is is this an adequate environmental impact statement? And there's a list of criteria that you have to meet. But, you know, one of the criteria is that you actually do need to talk about the major impacts of an action. You can't just kind of pretend that they don't exist when there is a major impact. So we feel that some major impacts are being overlooked, and one of them is waste. The system that is currently used by the, East Maui irrigation is old. You know, as we learned from our slideshow, it was the first parts were built 140 years ago. Most of those are not still in service, but even the newest ones that are in service are 100 years old. You know, they were built in the 1920s. So there are leaks, and there's leaks not just in the system itself, but once the water gets to central Maui, where it's moved every day. 25 million gallons are moved every day to central Maui right now. And in the past, that was 160 million gallons. It sits in reservoirs that are unlined. It passes through ditches that are unlined. It, gets lost in the shuffle. And we're not exactly sure how much gets lost. The estimate is somewhere almost a quarter of the water is never makes it to any productive use. So we just feel an EIS needs to analyze that pretty much in depth and what's going to be done to address those impacts. But so far, we haven't found that in this EIS. Fortunately, it was going to be heard on Friday at the land board, and they were probably going to vote up or down on whether to accept it or not. But that's been put off because the EIS got withdrawn about a week ago for typographical errors. We don't know what those are, but we're assuming that, maybe some pages were left out or something that, are needed. But it will be reissued probably next month. And then it probably will be heard at the land board next month in September. So we are reaching out to the community. Sierra Club is, and other organizations are as well. And we are trying to work with folks who are reading sections and have comments to offer to give the public a heads up of, some of the big issues that are at stake here. So this is we will, all of you who are on our lists, we will communicate with you about this. We'll be having a Maui Group newsletter going out very soon, and it will talk a little bit about where you can click and get more information. But just know it's kind of an overwhelming thing to comment on, and yet it's pretty important. The main thing that a lot of us feel that live in East Maui is that so little is known about our streams and our lives. A lot of the people on this land board don't even realize there's whole communities. They think that only East Maui streams that are used are in Keanai and Wailuanui. And of course, there's a lot of use in those communities, but several thousand people live along other streams in the Hoelo area, and they all use the streams too, and they just are not known about. So this is like an ongoing sort of need to tell a story, and that's why Sierra Club has taken these legal efforts. But this EIS is kind of a biggie. It's important when people write in their comments that they don't just say that they don't like the idea of EMI taking water, because that's not the topic on the table. The topic on the table is, did this EIS do a legally adequate job? So we'll hopefully give some guidance to folks. I see we have a couple of questions here. It says, is the land board going to get familiar with the EIS, and are the impacts acceptable? Well, of course, we have no guarantee if members of the land board, who are volunteers for the most part, there is one person on the land board who is a professional, and that's Suzanne Case, who's director of the land, the land division, the Department of Land and Natural Resources for the state. So we assume that, they're all going to do some reading. They'll probably read at least the executive summary, but we're not sure how in depth these volunteer members of the land board are going to get in reading this 9,000 page document. And then the follow-up question on that is, how do we know and how do they decide if the impacts are acceptable? And this is kind of a tricky question. It's a very good question. There's this list of criteria for EIS that the state developed, and it has, I don't know, 10, 12 points, 13 points, something on it. And so you're supposed to look at each of those points and say, did it do this? Did it do that? And so forth and so on. If it didn't, it shouldn't be acceptable. But I have to say, in general, having watched a number of boards like our Planning Commission and the State Land Use Commission and others review these documents, generally, if it's kind of big, they figure they've done a good job. Hey, they've covered everything. Like, look how big it is. Look how many pictures it has. So we can't really count on anyone going with a fine tooth comb and seeing if every one of those criteria were met. Maybe some of the state staff might, we might have people from Aquatic Resources say, it says you're supposed to do this and we don't see any information about it. So we can hope. And then there's another question, can we prevent 30-year leases from being granted and have them be shorter leases of 2 or 3 or 5 years maximum? Because we don't know what the conditions are going to be in the future, or what if there's drought? Do we have like kind of an emergency backup position for things? Because we could have impacts. We could have a blight come to the watershed and wipe out a lot of the trees. And when it rains, just none of the water goes into the aquifer. Some of it, a little of it goes into the stream, and a lot of it just goes and becomes mud. So yeah, we really don't know what's going to happen, and of course we're not being given much time to assess this EIS. But I think did we put a link in it, Marty, to the EIS in the chat, in the comment section of Facebook? I mean, we should do that. We will have a link on our Sierra Club website as well here in Maui, and there will be a link in our upcoming newsletter. If you're on our newsletter, you don't have to be a member to get the newsletter. It's kind of goes out to members and supporters on Maui. But anyway, in general, I think that these agencies don't look too closely at how good a job they do, but if we all bring up the idea and we get some agency support, I believe Fish and Wildlife, the federal Fish and Wildlife also believes that the lease term should be shorter and stated in their comments. So this could be something that we could all get behind. It's like, let's get it right. Let's do it 5 years at a time and see how we're doing. So this could be a really important talking point for the EIS. And another very, very long-term document that's being created at this time is our water use and development plan. And of course, the water use and development plan does include how much water is going to go to Mahipono and A and B, and guesstimates of it. And right now, the plan, it was put together in 2015 and 2016, the basic draft, and then some sections were updated, but it's a big undertaking. Wow, over 1,000 pages. So I think it's 1,200 pages. So our water department worked very hard on it, but they used the information they had in 2015, 2016, and then kind of slapped some new information into an addendum, because a lot changed. Like for instance, in Central Maui, A and B shut down sugar. Most of the land was sold to Mahipono. They have a different farming plan. And so all of that is discussed in the water use and development plan, but a lot of the figures are way off. And a lot of the sections having to do with protecting traditional and customary rights just weren't very filled out. There wasn't much input from cultural users, from the Ahumoku Council, from cultural groups. And so Councilmember Sinensi, who represents the East Maui district and chairs the Agriculture and Public Trust Committee, which deals with water issues at the council, he has made it a point to try to reach out to more Hawaiian cultural groups, West Side, Hamakua side here, Hana side, the Navaeha, folks in Central Maui. And they got some really good suggestions. And so the last meeting and the next meeting of this committee has been suggesting how to change language to really reflect what they've heard from Hawaiians who have water rights that are, different than just the average person. And that language was not very well fleshed out in there. There were some sections that weren't very clear about how we figure out how much water to allocate to traditional Hawaiian uses. So the next meeting will be a continuation of that discussion, and it's a very interesting process. So I believe we've put a link to that meeting as well. That's the Agriculture and Public Trust meeting, and that will be on the 17th, next Tuesday, and they're held at 1:30 in the afternoon on Zoom. So there's a link to that meeting, and you can just zoom in and check it out. And you will find a lot of information is exchanged at these committee meetings. Councilmember Sinensi is very dedicated to having experts present and trying to, have the public voice represented. He usually has some resource person from the public at each of the meetings to, address specific points, answer questions. So it's not a one-sided conversation. So it's a very interesting way to learn about what's being planned for Maui's future. Sierra Club had made kind of like a little laundry list of things that we thought should be changed. One of them is there seems to be this kind of blind dependency on future wells from Haiku for all of the water needs of South Maui, even though we don't know the capacity of the aquifers in Haiku. They've never been fully tested in the way that aquifers that are expected to deliver a lot of water are. They've been tested, enough to know that we can have some private wells and a couple county wells there that don't pump over 1 million gallons, but this is a plan to take 8 million gallons a day to 10 million gallons a day. It's a lot of water from one place. And so we're looking to see better language in there that that explains that this is a bit of a crapshoot right now. And it's not like the foregone conclusion that this is the future water source. We'd also like to see the water figures for Mahipono farming get more realistic, because we have real numbers now from these reports that Sierra Club pushed and pushed and pushed, and the land board gets these reports. We only have 1.5 years of them, but it shows the trend that the water use is far below what was predicted. And so to plan for a huge amount of water per every acre that's farmed is going to put a lot of pressure on streams when the water is probably not needed. So it's a complex thing, but we do have a update list that Rob Weltman manages, where we give people updates on what's going on, and some of you folks are on that list. And it's centered on the water use and development plan. But if you are interested, you can just email me, and I can make sure you're added to that list. And until the plan is adopted, the council was going to finish up their review and amendments by September of this year, but that's been extended till the end of the year, till December. So we will be looking at this plan for the next 4 or 5 months, and section by section. And the Hana and Ko'olau section, which is East Maui, has yet to be scheduled. So there's certainly opportunities for those of you who farm. The Ko'olau section is everything from Maliko Gulch all the way out to Nahiku. So it's all of us probably that are watching today. And so any of you that have farms and would like to make sure that folks know that there's farmers waiting for more water, it would be good, I think, to have a few of you testify during these meetings, because it makes it's different than just having people like me go there month after month and say, hey, there's people that need more water. Anyway, happy to keep everybody in the loop. These are big, complicated things, but they're important to our future, and they're not so big that they can't be understood. Sections of the water use plan are very easy to read. There are sections that are, 10 pages, 15 pages, and you can read them. The charts are a little hard to understand, I have to say. I wish they would have had Sam do them, but they didn't. So they're a bit in a parallel universe that someone understands. But anyway, this is something that is going to be our plan for 20 years. So anything that we at Sierra Club, and there are other organizations that are working on this, the Haiku Community Association, some of the folks in the Ahumoku Consuls, and some of the community associations in other parts of Maui are also weighing in and trying to get it so we get it right for a 20-year plan, that we're talking about real good conservation strategies for water, because water you don't waste is water you have for the future, and it's the cheapest water available. So these are some of the major themes. Waste less water, have realistic information about where future water would come from that's based on real data, and let's decide what's really needed from our streams for Central Maui farming, and make it so that there's enough to share with everybody. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope some of you have signed up to be involved in the future monitoring. If you have friends that couldn't make it to the broadcast today, it will be posted on Facebook. People can watch it at their leisure, and we will send out a reminder that this is happening. So we'll try to spread it around through Facebook and other things, so people know that this is something that they can tune on into. And we do look forward to having an in-person training. It would be small and outdoors for folks that want to work with the equipment and get to know it and learn how to calibrate it, and help set up, a plan for the monitoring on our first 2 streams. We hope to do that in September. So we'll keep everybody in the loop. Any closing words from you, Tara?
Nope, just thank you again, everyone, for being here. And I know it's a long time to be on a computer as well, but we appreciate you listening and tuning in. And thank you, Lucienne, for being such a gracious host today, and Sam, for being here to show us about your really cool app. And
Yeah, Sam. Great job.
Yeah, I look forward to working more with it and learning more how to use it, and also know that for the community members, that's something that we'll be training on too, is learning how to utilize this tool. So we can all look forward to that. And yes, thank you very much.
Cool. Well, hui ho, everybody, and check out the Sierra Club Facebook page if you liked what you saw here and you want your friends to see it. Just send them the link, and they can watch the program as well. And we did have a question about, would these slides be available? Of course, they'd be available if you watch the presentation, but I think we'll maybe try to take the ones that we have and just post them on, maybe create a new section of the Sierra Club website that's just on, eyes on the streams kind of stuff, and post the slides so that people want to, look at them again at their leisure. They can look through them, but they're all useful, and we appreciate people's interests. So have a beautiful Sunday evening, and we will see you soon, and you'll be hearing from us. Hui ho.
Hui ho.